Jodi Boam. I've been competing for like 18 years. IFBB Pro since 2010. Got my pro card when I was 20 years old. Been 5-time Olympian. Done fitness, figure, and physique. I've kind of done it all. Started with gymnastics. I just did my last competition. I'm officially retired, quote unquote, say now to try to like grow the family, things like that. So I know when we first tried to connect a few months ago, I was like still in prep for the Arnold. So like just life was a little bit different. I would have had probably different topics then. But yeah, where I'm technically retired now and we're trying to grow the family and grow the business. And I'm just like focusing on coaching now. So yeah, I guess let's roll from there. I definitely did start with gymnastics because I started competitive when I was like 7, and then I went to like Team Canada when I was a teenager. And then when I like retired from that, I just found I was trying to find ways to stay in shape and just like fell in love with weight training. And then I was introduced to Canada's best at the time, Mindy O'Brien, who became my first mentor and coach. And it kind of just took off from there. Like from my first show, it was just kind of like, this is it. I love it. Love everything about it. Because when I was in gymnastics, I had like the crazy Romanian coaches, which I love. Like I can tell stories like when I was a kid, like I love discipline. I like being told, not that like you suck, but I enjoy criticism and I take it and I work well with it. And that's how I was like, I had coaches like that right from when I was young. So like getting into fitness and the dedication and the discipline of the diet and the hard training and like the psycho mindset, it was just like it was made for me. So it did kind of just fall into place for me, I think, for sure. I loved weight training and I liked the look of like the strong, muscular female. So I was like, great, that's what I want to do. And then when I found fitness, knowing that there's also a routine round, I was like, it was magic. So yeah, I went from there.
I mean, how did you kind of transition mentally, and was it tough at all to go from that to then more of the aesthetic side and more of the like the volume side versus, maybe a little bit more on body?
Yeah, like body weight strength. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely translated fairly well for me anyways, because I found it as like with gymnastics and the discipline of like the understanding of your body awareness and your like mind muscle connection was it's just there, especially I was like high level gymnastics, so it's just being aware of exactly what muscles are being used. Like when I'm doing a specific just simple bicep curl, it's like a lot of people may use their traps or different muscles, and it's just like there's that mindset that like I know how to isolate, I know how to do perfect strict form, I know how to push past failure. So I mean, it definitely helped. I find gymnastics specifically helps with so many things, with like mindset, body awareness, mind muscle connection, all those things. And then with fitness specifically, it was like it made me, I mean, the handstand work and the high kicks, it's like it was all naturally there too. And then I'm able to translate a lot of my weight training into strengthening certain specific skills. Like if I wanted to do the handstand push-ups on stage for my fitness routine, it's like I get a goal of a specific shoulder press with a specific weight that is going to help me with that skill. Or trying to learn like a planche, I know that a specific chest muscle needs to be used, so I'll strengthen that during the weight training. So it's just like there's this good mental connection with it all, I guess. But when it comes to like the actual like changing the body, it took me a few years to understand like what like not just the dieting and leaning out. It was like actually trying to build specific areas to get that X frame. Took a few years for me to actually fully understand that and get to that point. Or even when I was starting out with bodybuilding, with gymnastics, it's so endurance based too that it was like kind of I did a lot of circuit training and I would do a lot of that. And it took a while for me to actually understand that if I want to grow, I need to do like heavy set and then actually rest. And the resting, it was very difficult for me. Like actually sitting and relaxing before my next set, I found very difficult. But it that was the hardest transition, I'd say. But
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, things kind of fall into place there nicely.
You mentioned, and this is just kind of like an offshoot, but the handstand stuff. And is that kind of a pretty direct translation from overhead presses? Because I mean, I've never trained for doing a handstand, but is it similar, or is there any difference just because you are pushing up off
Yeah,
of the
I'd say that's
ground?
definitely different because that would be a specific like for like handstand, like a handstand push up would be like like gaining strength in that. But for an actual handstand, the strength is it's different. It's more like balance, a lot of like upper back, shoulder, and even like core and glute strength to keep the alignment of your body. So an overhead press wouldn't help someone with a handstand specifically, no. Maybe certain core movements and mobility, so to say.
No more
Like
with the
being able to
handstand
have your
push
arms.
up.
properly behind you. Yeah. Yeah.
And you also mentioned body awareness and with posing, is that something that you found that you kind of had some sort of leg up on just the average new competitor because you kind of had more body awareness and feeling of what was happening? Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
I could say that definitely would be helpful, just like understanding the body and how to move it and how to flex the muscle properly. Like there's a lot of people that I do a stage presentation in my studio here, and a lot of the times it's realizing that they don't even know how to flex the muscle properly. Even though they're like hitting the pose, they don't feel the muscle properly. So it's like, I wonder, it makes you wonder, like, how's that translating even into your training? Like if you don't know how to flare your lats properly, or you don't know how to flex your bicep properly, like hit a front double properly, it's like, well, then how are you doing a lat pull down, or how are you doing a bicep curl? Like I even translate my actual posing into my weight training, right? It's like being aware of the exact muscle, how to flex it, how to move it, all those things completely translates as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and even just having the mobility. Mobility is actually more important than people realize as well for the posing, being
Right.
able to move the joint in the right way. So definitely good there.
Another kind of aspect of that, though, you mentioned was the posing. How do you, if you don't know how to like control your body, how do you know when you're posing if you're showing what you should be showing and things like that? And it reminds me, and I think it was Pumping Iron with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He talked about like when he would do a chest exercise right after he would hit a pose or a bicep curl, he would hit a bicep pose,
Yeah.
and just feeling like, okay, this is what that connection is. Combine those two things, I can see where it would be very valuable.
Very, very much so. Like even when I'm coaching some athletes here for posing, as soon as we remove the mirror, they're like completely lost. And even me sometimes, I practice in the mirror obviously, and then obviously a lot of times without the mirror. But as soon as the mirror is gone, it's like you have to really think about it and not just see it. A lot of people like, oh, I'm flexing because I can see it, and they're watching, even their training, they're watching in the mirror. Like, let's remove the mirror, and then it's like questioning, am I doing this right? Am I flexing right? Am I doing this? Meanwhile, we got to teach like it's not what it looks like. Well, it is in the end what the judges see, but it's like I also try to teach like it's not what it looks like. It's what it feels like. You need to be able to feel it. You need to know. You need to be confident. And yeah, and there's been times even I'll go on stage and the nerves might take over, or I don't know what. And even I'm flexing, and I get off stage and I'm like, I don't know if I was flexing my legs because I couldn't feel them. It's like nerves or something's happening. I'm like, I have no idea what I was doing because I couldn't feel it. And it's a terrifying feeling on stage, right? But it happens. So you got to be like very confident and know what it feels like and know that nerves can take over and destroy all that too. So yeah, it's interesting.
And being in fitness, the fitness division, do you feel like that there's a like an energy transfer that you almost have to somehow get whenever you go from posing to routine?
It's definitely the most difficult part because the morning, like some girls, I don't dehydrate or anything, but like when we're doing the physique round, it's like we might be dehydrated, we might be like the lower calorie, who knows, just to peak properly for stage and the adrenaline, and there's a big crash for sure. If I don't get my nap between my prejudge and my night show, like I think I'm a disaster. It has to happen. So yeah, there's a big adrenaline dump, and then I have to like go take a nap and like re-energize for sure, and like restart visualizing because there is a different visualization, a different energy needed, different muscles being used, different outfit, like absolutely everything. So there's a huge, fitness is underrated of the difficulty that what we do for sure.
When you are out there doing your routine, how much does body control in regards to like staying tight and flexed and that sort of thing play a role in the actual routine and like when in the actual judging of the routine and that kind of stuff?
um It's hard to say. Like I wouldn't want to like purposely do a skill and care about what the muscle looks like, so to say, in that moment. So I'm not gonna hit like a handstand and worry about like how hard I'm flexing something. It's like I'm focusing on visualizing perfecting that skill overall. Um, but since the physique round is 1/3 of our score and the routine is 2/3 of our score, it is difficult. How do I explain it? We still want to be like in the skill. I say it like we want to be lean enough and like conditioned enough that no matter what we're doing in that skill, we look muscular and we look lean without even having to worry about like, did I flex it properly or whatever. Like we're conditioned enough that even a handstand or a leap or a high kick, it's like it's showing extreme conditioning and leanness, and that just adds to the appeal of the routine as well. In versus like someone who maybe a little bit sloppier, maybe not quite as lean, even if they're doing better skills than me, it didn't appear, you know, as maybe quite as impressive in the bodybuilding community. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I hope that made sense.
Yeah.
So
It's almost a subconscious thing more than it is a thing that real it's not necessarily judged on X's and O's, but it's more of like what's the perception.
for sure, absolutely. Yeah, and there's certain skills that somebody could do if you're not like the judges aren't gymnasts either, right? So it's like there's sometimes we might do a skill that like we know is very difficult, or another gymnast is like, wow, that was really hard, but the judge was like, meh. It's like what? Like they don't always understand certain difficulties. So we got to like play around with certain skills too, being like, well, this one is harder, but this one looks better, so we got to do this one even though it's easier, or vice versa, right? So it's interesting for sure. Like what's appealing to the audience and kind of play up those in different angles too. Like one skill might look better facing this way versus this way, and we got to play up those ideas as well. So it's just always appealing to the judge for sure.
I wonder if there would be any benefit to having in a competition with fitness having like a fitness specialist or a fitness judge or consultant, somebody there to be kind of that like advocate for what's really going on there because like
Yeah.
you said, it's something could be impressive without even knowing it's impressive. It's
Absolutely. We've been
unfortunate.
talking about that for a little bit. For the most part, judging's pretty fair, but there are many shows it's a different judge. And, I mean, if they don't fully, I don't want to say they don't understand fitness because they do. They're an IFBB judge, they understand the sport. But I mean, an athlete versus an ex fitness athlete versus an ex gymnast, they are going to see the routine differently. They're going to understand the skill level differently. So we were talking about like making sure a certain judge or a certain style of judge is there for fitness, the same way that Steve Weinberger is the bodybuilding judge. And then we have a different judge for the females. It's like because they're specialized in this category. Whereas like fitness is it should be a specialty category, but it's treated just like the figure and the bikini and whatnot. So that would be nice. That's a great idea, but it hasn't fully happened yet for us.
Are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
Kind of going back a little bit again in time to when you did first start out, did you ever have this vision of like this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve?
At the beginning, it was definitely just something fun. I was just like, I didn't even fully understand the sport. Like when my coach at first said you can have like chicken and rice, so it's like I would eat chicken or not chicken fingers, but like chicken wings or something. And I didn't like for whatever reason. I was also only 18 and just like kind of just doing it for fun, like I said. And I'd have like chicken wings instead of a plain chicken breast, which is what I was supposed to have, or maybe not weigh anything, or like it was just for fun for me. I didn't fully understand it until I started like winning shows and like really getting like feedback from other people that like I could do better and I could go farther. So I was like, okay. And I started getting serious because I am very, very competitive, like through gymnastics and whatnot. So as soon as I realized, it probably took maybe 3 years, um, or less, because I got my pro card early. But as soon as I realized like where I could go and what, like what the sport truly was, then it was instantly very, very competitive right away. All in or nothing, right?
Besides the diet, because obviously, as you're learning more, you're doing better and you're, not eating chicken wings and things.
Yep.
Besides that, like what else really evolved for you over time?
Think again that kind of stuff just came naturally. It's like every time I improved is like you'd always just look for the next step or just find somebody that's a little bit better than you and watch them and keep following their footsteps kind of thing. Um but yeah, it's just like I'm the type like when you're in the gym for years, it's just like you're never satisfied. Like you're always looking for something new, you're always trying to push. So I think the evolution was just natural. It's like because no matter how good I am today, I need to be better next time. So the evolution just kind of came natural there. Um, until with fitness specifically, though, there was a point like, and it happened in the last year and a bit, where I know like I hit my peak already and I'm slowly coming down, just like with age or like having the kids and whatnot. Is like my body doesn't want to do the skills that I used to do. And I did have to like pull out of a show from injuries, and my last two shows, I knew I wasn't peaked. Like usually if I went into a fitness show, I'm very confident. It's like I knew which ones I was going to win and which ones I was like maybe going to win, but it's like I know where I stand. And my last few was, I started to feel, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not peaked in my routine anymore, and I'm just like kind of going in there hoping for the best. And that's when I knew I kind of had to pull the plug in fitness specifically this like past year. um yeah. I don't know, that kind of veered off your question there, but the evolution always, I always did go up until like I did feel that point recently, whereas like I'm past my peak in the skills round. In my physique round, my physique actually kept improving, and I think I can keep improving my physique. I don't feel completely done there. Like it maybe after my next kid, if it happens, then I want to maybe try my hand in another category and get back to the Olympian another category, because I don't think I'm past my peak there. But fitness, sadly, my body told me to stop, and my evolution in fitness is sadly done. But I coach it a lot now, so I do a lot of coaching for it, but my body's done.
So did you feel yourself, you mentioned you felt yourself like coming off of that peak, but were you aware that you were on that peak to start out, or did you just kind of feel like I'm still riding it, we're still going up until you did start to go down?
Pretty much, because I was even shocked, even after having my son 3 years ago. I didn't think I could do fitness again. It was just in my head that I probably couldn't. And so I was shocked that even my skills and everything, at some point I started to peak again, and I was at my best, absolute best. And I applied for the Arnold's in 2023. And I actually felt confident, like I could go in there and possibly win it, is how confident I was. My physique round, my fitness round, really peaked. And then I ended up getting injured, and I didn't qualify for, like, I didn't make the application, or what's the word, I didn't get accepted from my invite, because I had 3 years off prior, so I didn't actually get invited. And then I got injured, and after that injury, just things were never the same. I think I started to doubt myself with the injury, and because I didn't get the invite, I started to actually feel a little bit of doubts, and then the body just kind of went from there in the routine portion. So
To what degree does that like self-confidence starts to play a role in just your ability to actually complete that routine?
I think it's absolutely like detrimental. Like it is like a make or break in a sense, because I believe a lot of it is, especially in like high athletics, like visualization is everything. Like belief in yourself is everything. So like when I'm about to do a skill, like I will always visualize it first, or I'll visualize my entire routine first. And when doubts start to set in without even trying, you visualize the fall, or you visualize, oh, what if I wobble here? You visualize, you're trying to like, and it's unintentional too. So when you're constantly like, you're seeing the negatives without being aware, you might actually perform that negative, because like that's how your body learns, right? It's like you have to see it before you can perform it. So it's like when I start to visualize the doubts and like see the fall unintentionally, so then I might fall, or it might make me scared to even do it, because I'm like, I got to a point where it's like I'm about to go do, like, say, a full twist, for example, but my brain couldn't visualize the twist, so I was scared to do it, right? So I'm like, well, how can I do it if I can't see it? So the doubts and take over big time. But so there'd be times where I'm like, there's a skill I've never even done before, where I'm like, I'm just thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I can do it, because like I could see it, and I was confident I could do it, even though I've never done it before, and I did it. So it's like it definitely plays a massive role there, I think, for sure.
Is the visualization, is that something that you actively, use and stuff like during
Mm-hmm.
training and prep and even competition?
Yeah, it's huge. Like my routine, for example, or even when I'm helping other people choreograph, I'll like create the music, and then I won't touch a single skill until I've created the whole routine, like mentally. Like I think it drives my husband nuts, because there's days like I'm listening to music and I just stare at the wall, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm creating," and I'm like watching routines. I'm like trying to see what moves, like what matches there, and it's like I create everything in my head first. And the same would go with like the physique round. Like when I'm training something, I'm very big on like visualizing the pose. I'm not just training my triceps. I'm like visualizing my side tricep, in my physique pose. Or I could be doing any move, but I'm focused on like how small can my waist be, even though I'm doing a lat pull down, for example. That's random. But it's like in my head, I'm like, how can I make my lats wider with a smaller waist? And even while I'm doing that move, I'm not just doing that move. I'm trying to visualize what it's gonna, how it's gonna translate into a pose for sure. Visualization for me is absolutely everything for sure.
Does it ever, even though it's like super beneficial, do you ever feel like it does sometimes get overwhelming from the sense of like you want to like simplify something, but you can't, like you want to, you almost put like too much thought or too much like emphasis or too much of a, like too much meaning behind something that may not have that much meaning?
Definitely possible. Yeah, probably. I think the only where the only spot I can think of where it might have a negative for me sometimes is it can affect my sleep because I can't stop thinking about it, or I can't stop like creating, or like where did I go wrong? What can I improve tomorrow? So sometimes like that visualization and the constant, personal feedback can affect my sleep. Or the negatives, I guess, is like because I know that I'm good at it when I'm trying to teach my athletes or teach other people how to do it, that can be very frustrating because I know they don't understand what I'm saying, So I'm like, well, you can't really teach well, you can teach mindset, but it's difficult. So between teaching and sleeping, those are the only two negatives. But nowadays, like everyone's a coach. I mean, if you have Instagram, you're a coach, right? This is, but yeah, usually I can see it in an athlete for sure. Like I even coach like a good handful of pros. Like right now, I have about 9 pros under my name on in every category except bikini, basically. And even it's interesting that I can really see which athlete has like the mindset that I do, which ones can visualize, which ones can connect, or the versus the ones that kind of just go through the motions. And they're both great athletes, but then there's like it does change even the way that I coach them, because I know that if they have the proper mindset and they can connect and they can visualize, it's like I know that they can go a little bit farther. I don't want to say like I believe in them more, but I think they are able to believe in themselves more and they're able to actually execute exactly how I write it out versus the one that, is just going through the motions. So it definitely changes the way I coach too, and which ones I can put more energy into unintentionally, but it definitely happens and I can see it in certain people for sure.
Do you see it develop more? Like, do you see it as people maybe gain more confidence that that kind of stuff develops more?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's some like they're just in it for fun, like I was at first, until they realize, like, oh, I'm actually good at this. Or, oh, like she believes in me. So it's like when I see the potential, it's like the belief in somebody can completely change where they take it as well. Like I had a great mentor that believed in me so much. I was like, oh, I guess that this is for me. And I kept going. So it's like when I do see that in someone, it's like I make sure they know, like, I believe in you. You can go far. And it changes them as well. So they can go farther.
When you got your pro card, is that something that you saw as like a huge accomplishment, a huge milestone, or did you see it more as like this is just another step in the path, or like what kind of meaning did you put behind that?
Hard to say. I feel like it was so long ago. It's like 14 years ago now. But I know it was big because when I got my pro card, it was a much different process than it is now. Like it was there was, especially in Canada, it's even harder than in the States to get your pro card. So there was like a level 1, level 2, level 3, then nationals, and you had to win the overall like each of them. And it say I got to level 3 and I didn't place top 3, you got to start back at level 1 and like kind of keep climbing like this until you win the overall at nationals. So there was like it was a big climb to like get your pro card back then. So I know it was a big milestone. There was a lot more competitors back then too in fitness. So that was definitely good for me. And even back then it was just different. Like Instagram didn't really exist, so like the fact that I got sponsorships and things like that was like it was special because like there was only magazines and certain sponsorships, versus now you can have Instagram and be an affiliate or sponsorship here. It is a little bit different. So even the way I can look back, like I had a really good run and I know it was a big deal at the time, but when I was in it, I guess I don't know if I really noticed it, but I can look back now and realize like it was big, it was good. And I was the youngest pro at the time too. Like in Canada, I was the youngest one to get my pro card. So like that was a cool milestone as well.
It's so interesting how I don't know if this is true. Maybe it's just my perception on it, but it feels like Canada is such like a big, fitness community up there, like a big fitness division community, and a lot of interest and a lot of pros. And I actually didn't know about the old kind of system, if you will. That's pretty interesting. I wonder. It almost seems like it would encourage more like more competitiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say it took a lot more like dedication and like people that truly loved and lived for the sport, right? So it was definitely different. I'm not saying people don't now, but it's different than you enter regionals and you place top 5 and then you get to go to nationals. It's fine. Like that's good, but it's like there is no, you know, the tier system was just a lot different. Like you really had to in order to get to the national stage, you had to be good because you have already won level 1, level 2, level 3. You've moved up in the levels and made it to nationals. Versus now it's like you can get third place at a regional show that maybe only had 3 people in it. So technically you got last, but now you're going to nationals. So it's just like, it's a little bit different.
It almost seems like it would also keep people from, in a sense, like competing until you kind of are ready. Like it's not like, oh, we're going to compete just to compete and to see what happens. It's like, okay, if we don't do well and we're on stage 2 or 3, like we got to go back again and do it again. Like we got to repeat this thing. And
Yeah. I hear a lot of like the old school like bodybuilders even talk about it. It's like once they qualified for nationals, sometimes they wouldn't do nationals for like 1 or 2 or 3 years because they're like, well, I'm not ready for nationals. And they'd take it so seriously. Well, I'm not going on that stage until, 3 years from now when I'm actually ready for it. Whereas people don't do that now. They're like, okay, it's my second show ever, but I'm going to nationals. I mean, some people still take it very, very seriously. I'm not taking that away from them, but there is definitely a different tier system than there used to be.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
yeah, it makes me wonder, like what the real difference there is in regards to like, does it encourage more competitors to compete, or just more competitions in general? Maybe that is what it is it's just like, hey, there's not like we're not going to penalize you for competing. And I think from a sport perspective, from like a evolution of a sport perspective, maybe it's better potentially, because you're still
Yeah.
going to have, I think you're still going to have like the best are still going to be the best, right? Like it doesn't necessarily keep that from happening, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, no, I agree. They tried to make it grow, try to make it so that everybody could try it, everybody could do it, kind of thing. And like I get that, and I think it's great because it's making our sport much more known. But I think it's taking away the competitiveness a little bit. So like when I don't know, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but like when somebody says that they're a national figure athlete, but yet it looks like they just started working out. It's like it in certain senses sometimes it puts a bad name on the sport. But I mean, I'm not taking away again, some people take it very seriously. There's amazing pros, but there's some that it's like it although yes, our sport has grown huge to a sense, there's some parts of it that like maybe it's not taken as seriously as it used to be,
A little watered down.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that we're in almost like a Wild West stage right now of like, there's so much opportunity. There's so many brands. There's so many, everybody kind of seems like they're their own like content creators and their own, fitness channels and all these kind of things, which is kind of a good thing and a cool thing to experience for sure and to live through. But I wonder what it will look like in 5 years or in 10 years, specifically in bodybuilding. Like I just wonder like what that will filter to. I think it will be different. I really think it's something will change. I don't know if it'll be a sharp change, a quick change, or kind of a slow evolution, but I just think that and maybe it's just like a cycle, right? Like maybe it's just going to go back to being a little bit more niche, a little bit more underground. You
It's like
never
I'm the old school bodybuilder, right? It's like I've been around a long time. um so like I love the old ways and like doing like, the magazines and all like back then versus just the Instagram versus people taking, they take this brand only because so and so took it, not because it's the best. They're taking it because he said so, you know? So like I mean it's different. So like yes, it might evolve for the better. But to me, it's like my brain is so stuck here that I'm like, this is the only way. So I mean, it's probably going to evolve in some great ways, but it just depends where your mindset is, which one you prefer, and which route you're going to go. And like supplements, like I don't take anything because so and so takes it. It's like I will read the ingredient list and I will do research on everything, and I don't care if nobody takes it. I'm like, well, I know it's the best because I did my research on it. I know every ingredient in it. But it's like it's so much like the influencers, push certain products, and all the products are usually great, but it's like no one usually does their research anymore on which one is actually the best one for them. So, and don't get me wrong, because I have a code and a link for like HD Muscle as well. But it's like I know their products, and I'm not like gonna push them or whatever because like I'm not good at even pushing. I'm the worst for it. But like I have a code too, but it's like I only stick with like the brands and companies that like I believe in, and it's like I don't want to be affiliated with a company if I don't even want to take it. So it's like, well, I want to use their product, so of course I'm gonna be willing to, promote them. So like I recommend HD to all my clients, but I'll also put like this is the one I recommend. But if you prefer another brand, like you're loud, I'm not gonna hold a gun to your head and get it. But like this is the one I use, but feel free to swap it out if you need to. So yeah, I do think that like builds a little bit of trust as well. Is never forcing anything.
Right.
Although I maybe should sometimes, but when
Yeah,
I
it's
know they
aware.
need it, or I know like this product is better than the one you're currently taking. And in those situations, I will try to convince them. I just don't want to sound like I'm just selling because like it's such a big thing now. It's like influencers this and codes this and whatever. So sometimes I feel guilty being like, no, you have to take this one. But sometimes I should because like the one they're currently taking, like Jameson or something, I'm like, well, that's no good. Like you need to actually switch, So I gotta get a little better at that.
Reaching the Olympia stage for the first time. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
It was pretty unreal. And like I said, I was such like a newbie. Like I just got my pro card and then I won my very first pro show. So my second pro show ever was the Olympia. And again, at that time, it was like maybe I didn't fully understand the depth of that and how great that was. And I was just such a newbie. I remember being backstage and I was trying to get people's autographs, or maybe it was my second show, third show. It was somewhere in there. It was like my second or third show. I was at the Olympia and I was back there like asking the other girls for the autographs because I knew I was just like I'm just here for fun and like but I wanted like Adela Garcia's autograph and Tandy Johnson. Like back then they were way up here and I was just like, oh, I'm just here. And so it was funny, like even though I'm at the Olympia and I'm at the meet and greet and people are there to meet me as well and like I'm being scored just like I could win basically. I was like fangirling. I was like, I just felt like I was there as like part of the audience and just fangirling people. So that was an interesting year for sure. But that was probably one of my better placings, one of. And so that was back in 2011. And I ended up in 8th place that year. So like that was really good for my first year for sure. My second one, I got injured, so I couldn't fully perform. And then my third Olympia was in women's physique because I got injured again. So I switched over and I actually qualified in the Olympia in physique. And then my fourth Olympia, I actually had to pull out of the show because I got injured again. So this is where like my body is just like being like, no. So, and then this past one, I ended up 6th. So I'm really, really, really happy with like that. That's my best placing at the Olympia, but it wasn't my best performance again due to injury. So that's where I'm like, I'm pulling the plug on fitness so that I can, go on. I think I went way off your question on that one, but but that's my career at the Olympia. So that was 5 of them, 4 in fitness, 1 in physique. 3 out of the 4 fitness ones I was injured. So fun times. That's the joys of fitness. I think all of us girls are injured or have something broken or taped and, sprained ankle this. And we compete anyways because we're crazy.
Going from your first to your second, was it a way different experience? And just knowing like, okay, I've been here before. I felt this before. I've kind of gone through the whole, not even just the show, but just all the things that surround the show, the whole kind of couple days or week leading up to it. I mean, how does it change your mindset on it? How did it change just the way that you did get up there?
I think I definitely stopped being the fangirl. Like I took it more seriously. But that was the one show I shouldn't have competed. So then when I look back, like I was such in my head that like I have to compete. People are watching me, at that point I was starting to get well known in fitness. Even like Miss Olympia at the time would like text me being like, just so I'm becoming known at the time. So it was like I felt so, I had to do it. And I really shouldn't have because my knee was like completely like dislocated and torn ACL and everything, and I still tried to compete anyways. So I'm proud that I did because it's a fun story to tell, kind of. But yeah, it was a different mindset. I wasn't fangirl. It was very, very serious, and I went through with it no matter what. So I felt like I was my first one. I definitely felt like an amateur, whereas my second ones and on, like I knew I was a pro, and I knew that like I was finally the one that people were trying to, they're watching me versus me always watching them. So like that was definitely a good mindset switch on that one.
Did that add a lot of pressure to you knowing that like just the way that you feel about yourself, I'm here to be a competitor, I'm here to compete, I'm here to try to win, I'm here, against all these other great athletes. Like, Does that change the way that you experience the event itself?
I do really well under pressure. Like I like the pressure and I like critique and it's like so the more pressure the better for me in a sense. Um yeah, so if anything it just helps. Like I like, I actually get more motivation from knowing that somebody's looking up to me versus me trying to always chase something. Like other people, some people are opposite. Like it's like they're always have a new goal and somebody to look up to and it's motivating because they got something to chase. I'm kind of the opposite. It's like I get motivated knowing that somebody's looking up to me in a sense. So like the better I was getting and the more I was being watched was like I found that more motivating to like, I'm trying to help others and I'm coaching others and like I'm trying to remain good for somebody else in a sense. So like pressure to me is I see it a little bit differently, I think, and I like it.
So getting up there and competing was more like, let me show you like what's possible in a sense.
Kind of. Maybe. Yeah, definitely. Like
Huh.
you can do it. Yeah, that's kind of how my mindset always is. It's like I do things to make sure other people know it's possible, kind of.
And
Mhm.
so going into the next, couple of Olympias for you, was that something that you continue to like how did you manifest or put into action that mission, if you will, of let me be the prototype or let me be the person that people look up to? Like how do you go from saying like that's what you want to then like going and doing that and like trying to achieve that for people?
I think that's just how my brain works. There's no like rhyme or reason or explanation. It just happens. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that one. It's just in my blood, I guess.
Is it something that you carry with you even through, not even on the stage, but just through workouts and through?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that even like now, it's like I do certain things because I do it for my son, basically. I'm like, he's only 3, and it's like there's days like I don't want to do certain things, but it's like I make sure I do it because I want him to see it. I want like we have a little studio in the house, and anytime I go to do cardio or workout, I bring him with me. He may join, or there was the one day I was sitting down and it was funny, and he actually like picked up a weight and he gave it to me. He's like, "Mommy, work out," because I was being lazy. I was like, okay, buddy. So it's just like the little things, even just like that. It's like I like knowing like he's watching and he's, or just being able to run with him, like just staying active for him. And, yeah, it definitely translates in a lot of ways for sure. Definitely since becoming a mom too. So for sure.
What do you want your lasting impact in the world of bodybuilding or maybe just in fitness in general to be? Like, do you have something that you're working towards, like a greater goal or a bigger, greater good, if you will?
I suppose I think I'm still working on that. It's hard to retire because my entire identity for years, and I actually went through like a big identity crisis when I got pregnant for a while. It's like all I've been known for in my life is being like an athlete and competing and being on top and like always doing well. And then when I was pregnant, it's like I lost who I was. I know that sounds maybe bad, but it's like I stopped competing. I thought I'd never compete again. I didn't know how to be a mom, and so it was so it became really difficult for me because I thought I knew exactly what I wanted. It's like my one and only mission always was to win the Olympia. That's it. Right. So like when I lost that, because I know it's like I passed my peak, that will never happen. And I'm fine with that totally. Cause like I want 10 more kids now. Like I want to be a mom. So it's like learning my new mission and my new goals. And I'm still kind of working on that because it's a new identity, completely new identity. I feel like I'm starting from scratch in a sense. Still the same mindset though. But yes, I'm focusing on a lot of coaching. I really want to help like a lot of pros. I want to build the pros up. I actually want to coach. I'm trying to coach a lot of the fitness pros, which I am. I have a really good handful of fitness pros that I'm coaching now, helping them do what I did, doing the visualizations. Yeah, and so just like building my coaching, really trying to help people believe in themselves, really, grow that. So I'm not sure how far that's gonna go. Like I don't want to be Honey Reinbot or like these big coaches. I don't want that. I don't want that publicity or anything. But yeah, just keep pushing the coaching and like that let them pass me. I think a good coach and a good mentor is actually being proud of the athletes that are become better than you. You've coached them to be better than you. So that's kind of my goal. It's like, I want you to be better than me. So let's do it. So yeah.
From the motherhood perspective, do you ever find yourself like trying to apply those same principles of like, how do I get better? What's the best way to do this? Or how do I, if
Yeah.
I want this result, what's the X's and O's here?
Probably even more so. It's maybe I sometimes need to step back, but it's constantly like what can I teach him and how can I teach him? Like we're big on very limited tablet time kind of thing. Like, and it's always in the cars, like we'll sing songs, like learning songs. And like, I'm always trying to, think of ways like how I could teach him or like make sure he's better. Like I feel guilty if he's watching TV for an hour. I'm in my head, I'm like, hey, what can we do next that's like beneficial for him, or like move on? Or I was taking a bunch of courses on like, how to deal with their emotions. Like I'd take like toddler courses and baby courses just to like understand the psychology of my child, So definitely sometimes maybe I need to back off and just be and like let the intuition kick in a little bit. But yeah, definitely. There's always something there.
It was really great getting to chat with you. I appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing a little bit.
No, thank you very much. It was a good time.
Indeed. If there's any socials or websites or anything with your coaching that you want to share, you can go ahead and do that.
Oh, perfect. Everything's just Jodi Boam. Okay, so like Instagram at Jodi Boam, my website, jodiboam.ca. What else? jodiboam@gmail.com. So if you want to find me, just Jodi Boam. And there I am. Kept it simple, but I'm everywhere and hope you connect with me.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.